Welcome to AI News in 10, your top AI and tech news podcast in about 10 minutes. AI tech is amazing and is changing the world fast. For example, this entire podcast is curated and generated by AI using my and my kids' cloned voices. Here's your quick overview for Sunday, May 3rd, 2026. Apple says surging demand for on-device AI is straining supplies of the Mac Mini and Mac Studio, and warns memory will get pricier in June. Alphabet reports that AI in search is finally translating into revenue momentum, with Google Cloud growth accelerating. Microsoft, meanwhile, is pushing even harder on AI infrastructure, boosting capital spending by an extra $25 billion as component prices climb, while Copilot adoption crosses the 20 million seat mark. On security, there's a critical cPanel authentication bypass now on CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities list. Admins, this one needs weekend attention. And finally, Vimeo has confirmed a security incident linked to a third-party Anadot breach, with a ransomware crew claiming responsibility. Let's get into it. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Need elite developers fast? Elite Coders connects you with rigorously vetted senior engineers in 24 to 48 hours. Staff augmentation, dedicated teams, or full project delivery. We've got you covered. Visit elitecoders.co to get started today.
Now let's dive into today's stories. Story 1, Apple's AI-driven Mac crunch and a looming memory bill. During Apple's fiscal Q2 call, CEO Tim Cook said demand has outpaced supply for both the Mac Mini and the Mac Studio. Customers may face months-long waits for some configurations. Apple attributes the spike to local AI, developers and teams running models directly on machines with big unified memory pools. Cook cautioned the constraints could persist for several months. That matches what we're hearing across the component ecosystem. AI is pulling memory and packaging capacity in new directions, and the ripple is now hitting high RAM desktops, not just GPU servers. Apple's quarter was strong, $111.2 billion in revenue and $29.6 billion in profit. But the forward signal is Cook's warning that memory costs will be significantly higher in the June quarter and will increasingly impact products. If you're budgeting for fleets or pro workstations, factor in longer lead times and potential upticks on high memory configurations. Sources include Tom's Hardware, TechRadar Pro, and Axios. One more angle here. If memory prices stay elevated into the summer, vendors may tweak RAM configurations or pricing ladders to preserve margins. And because Apple's statement lines up with warnings from memory suppliers about persistent shortages, this isn't a one-week blip. It's part of the structural AI supply story now landing on the consumer side. TechRadar notes those higher RAM costs start to bite from June. Story 2. Google says AI in search is paying off. Alphabet posted $109.9 billion in first quarter revenue, up 22% year over year, and called out AI-driven experiences in search for pushing queries to an all-time high. Google Cloud had a standout quarter, up 63% to $20 billion, as enterprises buy more AI infrastructure and Gemini-powered services. Alphabet also disclosed hefty capital expenditures, $35.7 billion in the quarter, as it scales Gemini and cloud capacity. The company says paid monthly active users for Gemini are up 40% quarter over quarter, and the API is now processing 16 billion tokens per minute, up more than 60% from last quarter. If you've been waiting for hard evidence that AI can move core profit and loss lines beyond splashy demos, this is it. Search, cloud, and subscriptions all benefited. Coverage via Android Central. What should operators and marketers take from this? First, AI in search is no longer just an engagement story. It's linked to revenue and ad formats. Google is confident enough to scale. Second, spending at this pace suggests Google is steering into model upgrades, training capacity, and inference optimization. So expect lower latency, longer context windows, and multimodal features everywhere as Gemini evolves. Story 3. Microsoft's AI check just got bigger. Following its latest quarter, $82.9 billion in revenue with Microsoft Cloud at $54.5 billion, Microsoft says rising component prices are forcing an additional $25 billion in AI capital spending this year. CFO Amy Hood now pegs total 2026 capex around $190 billion, with $40 billion on hardware and data centers next quarter alone. Two demand signals are driving that: a commercial backlog of roughly $627 billion and an AI business run rate around $37 billion, up 123% year over year. Microsoft 365 Copilot adoption keeps climbing too, with more than 20 million paid seats and 4 times as many customers with over 50,000 seats compared to last year. For customers, this likely means continued priority on GPU and CPU allocation, aggressive regional build-outs, and premium pricing for high-end inference tiers until supply normalizes. For IT leaders, it's a heads-up to lock in capacity and budget cycles now, so you're not priced out later. Reporting via TechRadar Pro. Before we continue, here's a quick message from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Family GPT, the AI chat platform actually designed for kids. If your children are curious about ChatGPT, but you're worried about what they might see, Family GPT gives you full parental controls, content filtering, and the ability to align responses with your family's values, whether Christian, Muslim, Jewish, secular, and many more. Monitor every conversation, set usage limits, and let your kids explore AI safely. No ads, no data selling, complete privacy. Sign up free at familygpt.chat. That's FAMILYGPT.chat.
All right, let's get back to it. Story 4. A critical cPanel authentication bypass is being actively exploited, and it's now on CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities list. If you manage hosting stacks, or rely on a provider that does, pause and check your exposure. The flaw, CVE 2026-4194U, CVSS 9.8, allows attackers to remotely bypass login and take full control of cPanel and Web Host Manager. Patches shipped April 28th, but exploitation was observed before disclosure, and multiple security teams report in the wild activity. CISA added the CVE to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog on April 30th, and federal agencies were told to remediate by today, May 3rd. This is not hypothetical. Exploitation is happening, and mass compromise is possible given cPanel's footprint. If you haven't already, update to the fixed versions, audit for suspicious sessions and tokens, and rotate credentials and API keys touched by affected hosts. Sources include Cyberscoop, TechCrunch, and the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity. A quick explainer for your comms, cPanel is the control panel layer millions of websites use. So a pre-auth bypass means an attacker can become the server admin without a password, exfiltrate data, or pivot to every site on that host. If you're on managed hosting, press your provider for attestation that the April 28 fixes are applied, and ask whether they've scoped indicators of compromise across your tenant. TechRadar Pro's write-up underscores just how sweeping the risk can be for unpatched environments. Story 5. Vimeo confirms a security incident linked to the third-party Anadot breach. In a notice to users, Vimeo said an unauthorized actor accessed certain user and customer data via a compromised Anadot integration. Early findings suggest the exposed data included technical logs, video titles, and metadata, and in some cases email addresses, not video content, login credentials, or payment card data. Vimeo disabled Anadot credentials, removed the integration, brought in a third-party investigator, and notified law enforcement. The ransomware crew Shiny Hunters has claimed responsibility and threatened to publish stolen files unless a ransom was paid by April 30th. While the scope isn't fully quantified, it's a reminder that supply chain and analytics integrations can be the weak link. If you embed analytics or anomaly detection services, inventory those tokens and rotate them, and review what metadata you transmit and whether it contains sensitive identifiers. Coverage via TechRadar Pro. Recap for May 3, Apple is signaling tighter Mac supply and pricier memory, just as on-device AI goes mainstream. Alphabet says AI is lifting core businesses like search and cloud, while Microsoft is writing a much bigger AI spending check to keep up with demand as Copilot spreads. On security, a cPanel pre-auth bypass is under active exploitation and on CISA's KEV patch now. And Vimeo's third-party incident is a fresh case study in supply chain exposure. We'll keep watching how AI demand reshapes hardware, budgets, and, critically, your security posture in the days ahead. Thanks for listening, and a quick disclaimer. This podcast was generated and curated by AI using my and my kids' cloned voices. If you want to know how I do it, or want to do something similar, reach out to me at emad@ainewsin10.com. That's AInewsin10.com. See you all tomorrow.